Today I'm going to focus on the investigation. I'm going to start right out with April 7th and break it down through the 21st. So take a listen. For April 7th, that was canceled due to illness. The media said it was the flu. I'm going to disprove each and every lie that the media told. The piano and a microphone tours, as well as the hit and run concerts, were known to be like pop-up concerts. When you watch Prince for 40 years like I did and listen to him, you would know that he always said that his concerts were like professionally planned, professionally filmed. He didn't want any screw-ups, perfectionist style. During these last couple of years, what we were sold is that he would make the announcement that he was going to do a concert in a certain area and then just start the ticket sales that day or the next, the $1 million show. The media promoted that he had the flu, but what they don't tell you is what was happening behind the scenes on April 7th. The media story is that due to the flu, Kirk contacted his doctor, Dr. Schulenberg. He had been his doctor for 16 years. He contacted his doctor to take a look at Prince, and this was roughly 6:45 in the morning. Let's take a look at that. Kirk Johnson, or Kirk Anthony Johnson, he's known as Prince's right-hand man, best man at the wedding to Maite, and having been in the services of Paisley Park, I think, for roughly 28 years. His doctor is allegedly Dr. Schulenberg. Meet Michael Schulenberg. Know that he has two identities. Let's check out two addresses for him real quickly. The media promotes that Schulenberg was slapped with a $30,000 fine for providing Percocet to Kirk in Prince's name. And when they do the release of all that information through the court, I know I cut his name off up here, but you can see where it says Michael T. Schulenberg, MD. And if we Google Dr. Michael T. Schulenberg, MD, we get 675 Water Street, Excelsior, Minnesota. Yet when they're speaking to Schulenberg, they ask him where his office is located at, and he says 15450 Highway 7, Minnetonka. So two different Dr. Schulenbergs. More than that, when you look at the medication bottle, it says Michael Schulenberg, MD, not Michael T. Schulenberg. You can't do that. You have to be exact with your name, and the DEA doesn't play that. Here we're provided this text that is allegedly Thursday, April 7th at 5:45 a.m. Good Mr. Doctor, Kirk says, just wondered if there's any way we can get fluids for Prince this morning. Please let me know. You can tell from his response that it says Kirk, so the person on the other end would say, who is this? And he said Kirk. And then the other person said something else. And he says, even if there was a private area, let me know. The next reply that's allegedly from Schulenberg says, good morning. We do have a private area, like he is just greeting him for the first time, because why would he be saying good morning again? Good morning. We do have a private area. The urgency center doesn't open until 11 a.m. and there are two back entrances. It would have everything needed. I would have to go over and make sure supplies are accessible, and I could do that by 7. And then Kirk goes on to say he'd rather if a doctor come to him. Do you have any other suggestions? We are supposed to fly out today for a show, and I think he might have some other issues. So, if Prince was just dealing with the flu on April 7th, do you think any of that would have been happening? Do you think that Kirk would be saying he has some other issues? More than that, I need you guys to think critically about this. Just like there's dual identities for Kirk and Kirk Anthony Johnson and Dr. Schulenberg and Dr. T. Schulenberg, I have found from investigating this that the timestamps and the dates seem to be false. So what I'm getting at is, even though we're shown the timestamp of April 7th at 5:45, when you investigate further to April 20th and you realize that Kirk allegedly picks up Andrew at 6:23 a.m., then Phaedra is calling at 7:04 a.m., and then there's the calls from Paisley Park. All of those timestamps work. And also the fact that the text says on the 7th that there are two back entrances for privacy. You have to consider this. Yes, there's the CCTV video of Prince's last day, which they say is April 20th, but that CCTV video could very well be from the 7th. What I'm saying is, as we go, note that the time and date stamps are just as confusing as the multiple personalities. Identities. I'm the one with the personalities. Here, Schulenberg tells us that Kirk had been his patient for 16 years, 16 plus years. Here, we're shown another text. Doctor, give me first name. You always say last name. It has slipped my brain. He's been his doctor for 16 years, but his name slipped his brain. No, that's a text where he's texting about the Kornfelds, Howard and Andrew. Anyhow, Schulenberg goes on to testify, just for privacy purposes, we entered through the back of the building and came into the urgency center part, which was not open for patient care. He placed an IV, gave a liter of saline, and he left in the presence of Marone. Know this, before they even got to the clinic, it says, so after speaking with Kirk, I came over to Paisley Park about 6:45 in the morning, met Prince, did a history, took a physical exam, and then he wanted IV fluids. That's not something I could do there, so we arranged. The word arranged is super important. Here, Schulenberg is going to tell us that he transported Prince. Schulenberg reported the first time he met with Prince was 4/7. He met with Prince at Paisley Park and then transported him to the clinic. Kirk Johnson must be quite the superstar to be able to contact his doctor of 16 years at 6:45 in the morning and ask him to administer fluids to one of the world's the biggest ever superstar, if you ask me. Chris Nelson is asking Schulenberg, and the first time they called you and contacted you, what kind of symptoms was he? Oh, he was complaining of a numbness and tingling in one of his legs and the numbness and tingling in his hand. He had some vomiting the night before that he had attributed to some soup he'd eaten. I mean, I didn't walk around, look to see if there was any vomit anywhere. So, according to Schulenberg, it wasn't just the flu. There was numbness and tingling in the hands and the legs. And he was asked if he was looking around for vomit. So what did he do, as any good doctor would do? Here they allege that Schulenberg checked with Prince the next day and the numbness and the tingling had both cleared up. They go on to ask Dr. Schulenberg what prescriptions he prescribed on the 7th. Schulenberg admitted he prescribed both Zofran and vitamin D. He says he provided them for Prince, but that he put the prescriptions in Kirk's name because they are not controlled substances. You put both the Percocet on the 14th in Kirk's name because they were controlled substances, but on the 7th you put Zofran and vitamin D in Kirk's name because they weren't. None of that makes any sense. And furthermore, those bottles were found in the suitcase with the name tag Peter Bravestrong. That's the identity they try to sell us as Prince. Not only are those prescriptions in Kirk's name, they're being filled at CVS Pharmacy, not the, highly publicized Walgreens. So we have to talk about something important. The Zofran is an anti-nausea, and the vitamin D, of course, is, for anybody. What's important is that the Carver County incident report shows that on October 23rd, 2013, that Prince, whoever they're calling Prince, was admitted to the ER, and during that ER visit that they also prescribed Zofran and vitamin D. The person who saw the doctor on the 7th as Prince and received vitamin D and Zofran is quite most likely the same one who saw them on October 23rd, 2013. Here's the Carver County incident report, and the record says, I then found a medical record for Prince from 10/23/13. It showed that Prince was admitted into the ER at approximately 7 on 10/23/13 after being transported by ambulance. It's super important that you recognize that it says transported by ambulance. Scenario 2, Kirk said he took Prince to 212 Ridgeview Emergency Center a few years ago when Prince was complaining he was dehydrated. Recap. It's only April 7th, you guys, and already you've got 2 Dr. Schulenbergs with 2 different addresses. You've got prescriptions that are Zofran and vitamin D that Dr. Schulenberg said he put in Kirk's name because they're not narcotic. But then, of course, on the 14th, he put the Percocet because they are. So that is not the flu, first of all. So then, of course, they changed their media story and, say that they were covering up an addiction and so forth. Everything that you read in the magazines and are told on the news is a lie. I'm going to go ahead and venture into April 8th. So here Schulenberg tells us that there was contact on the 8th, that Marone texted him and asked if Prince could talk to him. And then about 10 minutes later, Prince called and he spoke to him on the phone for about 15 minutes and reviewed some of the symptoms. Here, Dr. Schulenberg mentions is that he had seen a chiropractor that night It's odd that somebody with the flu that's so sick would see a chiropractor. Yet he goes on to say that Prince said he was feeling better and that if he needed to see him again to do some blood work, that they could do that. And they just kind of left it at that. And his next contact with him was on the 21st, yesterday. Dr. Schulenberg was being interviewed on April 21st. So the fact that he said his last contact was with Prince on April 21st yesterday is just another huge discrepancy. The thing about Schulenberg, he is far guiltier than the media alleges at all. He was publicly slapped with a $30,000 fine for providing 15 Percocet, allegedly to Kirk, for Prince on April 14th. We're told that Prince has the flu on April 7th, and Dr. Schulenberg checks back with him on the 8th. Then nothing until Kirk decides he wants to get a hold of Dr. Schulenberg on April 14th, the next day that there's a concert, to get some Percocet. That whole thing, it's very important that you know that Kirk Johnson's phone records had to be deciphered in UTC time because he was traveling during that time. And I believe it was to Canada. And it's a huge reason as to why the pilots timed out in Moline and they had to wait for another plane, even though the media reports the same plane left Moline and flew back to Minneapolis. The 7th, the 14th, and the 21st, the days of the concerts are important because when you look through the crime scene photo pictures, you will see that the cars in the parking lot have the same numbers. Check this out. 7th, the 14th, and the 21st. Story of illusion, come up in my circumstance.